How's life in Japan? Tradition. Alright, 1 minute to go, whatever. We'll just have a little bit of a chat before we get into it properly. We got Mr. Tradition. Let me see if this is working. Be nice if it is. It is. Nice. So we got Moist, which is the new spelling of moist, I suspect. We got Tradition. We got Peepo over here saying he's about to go to sleep. But what the hell? I'll stay up. I was about to go to sleep. And I was like, what the hell? I'll do well, it's not really touching tips because I probably should have called it a touching tips, but whatever. And this will be a breakfast stream for Tradition, who is of course all the way over in, I'm going to assume Tokyo, Japan, but just Japan. But I'm just going to say Tokyo. I have a feeling it probably is Tokyo. Where else would you go in Japan? Anyway, there has been some seismic, moves made in the gaming industry lately. Some of it, well, all these kind of big things have a knock-on effect. So while they may not be specifically affecting virtual reality in a way that we can see immediately, it's very possible that the domino effect will affect virtual reality down the line and impact us PSVR fans. Welcome, by the way, to my new office. I hope you all like it. I teased it a bit in the Discord. You've probably already seen us. Or saw us. My English is going downhill big time. But that's fine because I'm not English. Decepticon has joined. And he's happy with the new poster I got. Yeah, you like that poster? It's just over my right shoulder here. It's for an album. I found it in a flea market. I thought it looked okay. So I stuck it up on the wall. Actually, you know what? It was in the trash can behind the flea market. I don't even know what a flea market is. We don't have them over here, I don't think. At least we don't call them that. How you doing, Decepticon? And we got Mr. V or Demon. Loving the new office. Well, thank you very much, V or Demon. I'm thinking of adding to us over time as well. So, got the mannequin over there as well. From Resident Evil 7, wearing the old headset for PSVR1. I hope everyone's alright. I don't know how long this is going to be. There's a few things to talk about. I suppose I'll jump into the thing that's coming quickest, I suppose, which is Gran Turismo 7, which is getting its own state of play, and that's happening tomorrow, 10 p.m. my time. That's 2 p.m. Pacific time. 5 p.m. Eastern time and 11 p.m. Central European time. So there you go. So I'm just going to read it's a very short blog post. Shorter than any other blog post I've ever put out for one of these, I think. Anyway, it's by Brett Elston. I'm not going to put it up on the screen. I'm not going to put any of these on the screen because it's just going to slow the stream down. And anyway, I'm just going to read the important parts and that's all that's going to matter. So this guy's manager of content communications at Sony. So the first 2022 State of Play arrives later this week, and we're all revved up. See what he did there? For just over 30 minutes of new PS5 footage and gameplay details for Gran Turismo 7. So watch live at these times, well, tomorrow and the times I've already said, and then he just says, see you Wednesday, and that's it. It's like suspiciously brief, but anyway, half an hour dedicated to just one single game. I'm not sure this has happened before. I know Horizon got a state of play dedicated to us. I think Ratchet and Clank got one as well, but 30 minutes seems a little bit excessive, so it's got me kind of wondering if perhaps they might reveal that they do have a PSVR2 mode, or maybe even PSVR1, who knows, support planned. They're talking about this thing for 30 minutes. What else are they going to talk about? We know it's going to look good. We know you're going to be driving cars around in circles and circuits. What else do they have to say? You might as well talk about virtual reality support. So while that will be streaming, I finish work exactly when it starts streaming, so I'm not going to be streaming it. But it could be worth watching just for the virtual reality support. I'm not big into racing myself, so whether it has it or not is not going to be a huge deal breaker for me. Even though I'm certain it will have it, even if they don't talk about it tomorrow, they will almost certainly support us on PSVR2. Decepticon says the Amish Marcus, those Amish people are good people, the only good Americans. I'm sorry if you can hear me breathing into the mic. I'm monitoring my own voice for the first time. I'm kind of hearing myself breathing like an absolute pervert. Have I been sounding like this the whole time? People says, normally mentioned PSVR2 won't be there. People, that's an excellent point. Although, like, they are saying this is specifically just Gran Turismo 7. Like, normally when they're doing a mention saying something like PSVR2 won't be there, that's when they're doing a state of play where it's like a mystery. You don't know what's going to be there. It's not dedicated to one game. But it's still worth mentioning that, people. That's a good shout, good call, good spot. How you feel about the Bungie purchase? I guess we'll talk about that next, unless there's anything else to say about Gran Turismo 7, which I don't think there is. This is what we've heard in Firewall for years. What? Oh, the perverted breathing into the microphone. Okay. I guess that's really up close to my mouth, yeah, so you would have been hearing that. Giving you some PTSD with these breathing techniques. So anyway, to go back to VR Demon's point, how do I feel about it? Well, let's go into it a little bit in detail. You probably have already heard of it by now. I'm not going to go into the details of the specifics of the actual deal itself, but suffice to say, Sony bought Bungie for nearly $4 billion dues, which I think is the biggest amount of money they've ever spent to acquire any studio. I mean, they got Insomniac for $250,000 even. Not even. Less than $250,000. And I don't think Bungie are worth, 16 times? I didn't do the maths. Somebody else did the maths on Twitter, so I'm trusting that it's correct. 16 times the value of Insomniac. Now, the thing about that is, though, is that while, okay, they've only done Destiny, but Destiny is actually a huge moneymaker. It's this big live service. It's something that Sony do not have. Sony don't have live service games, you know. That's kind of Fortnite's realm, you know. Maybe Minecraft, would you call that a live service game? I mean, they've been going on a long time with Minecraft too. But yeah, it feels like when I booted up Twitter yesterday, and I saw the image of, you know, the thumbnail that you see for this video, basically, it felt like, in a way, like, when is this? It's not a retaliation, because apparently this happened 6 months ago, where they were coming to agreements for this acquisition. So it's not revenge for Microsoft buying Activision, but it's probably a reaction to them buying Bethesda from the previous year. So you have to wonder, when's this going to end? Jeff Keighley's out here teasing that he knows that there's more coming, and that they're in like the closing stages of negotiations. Now, he didn't say which companies, but more is happening. Jim Ryan himself said you can expect more acquisitions. Maybe Phil Spencer did as well. So this year is definitely going to be, you know, interesting. We can talk about acquisitions, what we'd hope Sony will get, what we, you know, wouldn't really care. But, you know, First Contact Entertainment, obviously, number one. Forgive me for ignoring you for so long, Cousin Justin. Welcome the thick and long Blue Wrench, destroyer of oysters. Did he mean toasters? The shucker of clams. This is the Xbox VR channel. You're from an alternate dimension where Xbox supported VR and PlayStation didn't. Welcome, Cousin Justin. The cousin of everyone, as Decepticon puts us. PPO Peepo, sorry, says Bungie made the best Halos. 343 sucks. I've heard that a lot, but then I've also heard that a lot of the Bungie staff members who were there for those Halos are like no longer there. So like Bungie today is a completely different Bungie. It's like 800 staff members there though, so there's like a serious amount of talent. Supposedly they're working on a new IP as well. But the strange thing is that, you know, they're keeping them kind of independent, so Bungie can do whatever they want, which is fair enough, but they can also independently publish, and they can choose what platforms they want to put their games on. So these aren't going to be PlayStation exclusive games, supposedly, unless that's a load of bullshit they're saying. But right now it looks like they're keeping them multi-platform. So the big reason that they bought them then, not to keep games away from Xbox, but to give them a live service game and give them all this experience that they're completely lacking right now in this segment of the market. You know, Sony are good for the single player stuff, not so much these kind of the games. Excuse me. Also, my sons are a little bit sick again, like a cold or something, so I might get interrupted dealing with them if they wake up. VR Demon says, I was hearing that Microsoft got word of it and they're the ones doing the payback. Don't know if it's true or not. See, I don't think so, because from what I understand, it was Bobby Kotick, you know, the CEO of Activision, who approached Microsoft. So he kind of ran Activision into the ground. There's all these kind of sexual assault allegations going around and all these kind of investigations pending into that company. So he was feeling the heat. He went to Phil Spencer. He says, come on, give me 70 billion and the company's yours. You can have all these IPs, you can have all these studios. And Phil Spencer is like, okay. I think that's how it went. So I don't think Microsoft plotted it. Apparently Destiny is Phil Spencer's favorite game. I've heard someone tweet that. Maybe it's bullshit, but that'd be pretty funny. People says, I'm going to say Sony will go for maybe Capcom. Have really good ties with Sony. This is true. You could say, for me, the big one is Konami, I think. Not because they've done anything good lately, but just for the IPs, just for Metal Gear Solid and Silent Hill. I think if Microsoft buy those, and they very much might buy those, I'm going to be in a bad way, personally speaking, because Metal Gear Solid is my, you know, it's my big, it's my franchise, you know, it's my favorite fucking franchise, even though Phantom Pain was, you know, whatever, but that'll hurt if Sony don't buy them. Or if Microsoft do buy them, I should say. Where was I? Muzz says, hello there. How you doing, Muzz? How's things in Canada? Tasuki saying, Microsoft buying Blizzard is not even a done deal and the FTC is looking hard into it. This is true. Tasuki will always mention this as soon as anyone... I've seen you all over Twitter with this. The thing is, Tasuki, and from what I understand, the FTC are actually looking into it right now. But from the people who know the laws in the US, when it comes to, what is it, fair, it's not fair trade, but fair something, I can't remember the word. Basically are saying, you know, they'd need to be doing a monopoly in order for the FTC to step in and stop us. And even if they buy 3 more big publishers, they still won't be a monopoly, like, so they're likely to get away with this. If they got away with Bethesda, then they're probably going to get away with this too, and they'll get away with more, you know. So I'll be very surprised if it's actually stopped. Tsugi. But fair enough. It's a fair point to raise. Infinity Lefty, how's it going? Welcome back. Now it's Nintendo's turn to bite somebody. I was just thinking, if Microsoft or Sony were to buy Capcom, that would hurt Nintendo, because, you know, they've got like a big, I'm pretty sure they do Monster Hunter, don't they? And those Monster Hunter games are really big on the handhelds, the Nintendo handhelds, so the Switch now, I guess. So maybe they'll acquire Capcom. How would you feel about that? No more fucking Resident Evil virtual reality for us, which would be very sad. But yeah, people are kind of... We should probably be watching our backs for Nintendo to see what they do. Because it feels like it's getting heated, like it's only starting, you know? It's like there was a cold war of like buying studios here and there, you know, Housemarque, Blue Point, and then Microsoft were buying Playground Games and stuff like that, which is all fine because they had a good working relationship with all these, so it made sense. But then Microsoft started swooping in and, you know, like, fuck this, we've got all this cash, let's use this to just buy our way to the top. Sony feel threatened with that, of course. They have to respond in kind, which forces maybe Nintendo to respond in kind too, even though people like to say that Nintendo don't compete with them. But, you know, at the end of the day, if they're taking away talent and developers, then that's their talent and developers. That's been taken away from them as well. Or at least partnerships. People says Sony is pushing hybrids. I think that whatever the next Bungie game is, I think will have VR and flat. That's a very good point. They might even just like try to get it into Destiny 2 now, because the way Bungie are operating Destiny, I don't think they ever want to do a Destiny 3. They just want to keep Destiny 2 as, you know, just Destiny. They're probably not even happy that they have Destiny 2. I think that was probably Activision's doing, and that's one reason why they wanted to get rid of them or end that agreement with them. So Destiny 2 is kind of like this never-ending game, like Fortnite. So I could see them patching in PSVR support. PSVR 2 support, I should say. Probably not PSVR 1. But yeah, that would be pretty epic, as the kids say. Speaking of epic, there's another one that could be snatched up by someone. I feel like I'm really like running out of breath or something. I think COVID has like fucked my lung capacity. I'm like down to 20% lung capacity. Just talking is like, or maybe I'm just getting obese. I like more obese. I don't know. Infinity left to say Nintendo need to buy retro studios. I'm scratching my head. Well, not physically scratching my head, but mentally I'm scratching my mind, trying to figure out who retro studios are. Who do they make? What do they make? Fill me in on that one. Tsuki says, we do have to remember these studios have to want to sell for somebody to buy them. That's very true. And that, you know, that's weird as well about Bungie, is that they were desperate to get away from Xbox, you know, and then they entered this agreement, 10-year agreement with Activision, which they broke early because they were desperate to get rid of them and be independent. And now they're in bed with Sony again. But like, I know the clause is that, you know, they get to keep their independence, but it's just a bit strange how they keep doing that. We also have to keep in mind, Tsuki, is that maybe Capcom want to be bought, or maybe Konami want to sell these IPs that they're not really doing anything with other than pachinkos and shit like that. Maybe they could work out a deal where, you know, give us the Metal Gear Solid IP to make games, but you can keep it for your casino games or whatever, and, you know, both of them are happy that way. I don't know. But yeah, another good point from Tsuki. Must said, I would have thought if Sony was going to buy a studio, they'd start with Square Enix. Nab and Bungie is kinda out of the blue. Sony really does not need a first-rate FPS for their console. Sony really does need a first-rate FPS for their console. Which is exactly why they got Bungie, I suppose. But, I mean, they're keeping it multi-platform. I wonder, could they use it as like a bargaining chip? As in, you know, you better keep Call of Duty multi-platform, or we'll do some shit with Destiny you won't like. Because apparently Destiny is... Even yesterday, I think they had like 800,000 players. Yesterday, when nothing special was happening, like it was coming to the end of the season or something. But yeah, Square Enix are definitely in contention. Like, I mean, basically everyone is naming every big publisher right now, you know, speculating on who anyone could grab next. Like Xbox could grab Square Enix next. Square Enix own Crystal Dynamics, don't they? aren't they working with Xbox on the next, what's that game called again? Perfect Dark. They're bringing that back. And they also bought Rise of the Tomb Raider for a year. Remember they had that like exclusivity deal. So Square Enix have played, they've slept in both sides of the bed. But then again, Nintendo could swoop in with their Octopath Traveler project or whatever, and then they're in there. So, it doesn't really matter if they have a good relationship or not. They could just get bought, money at the end of the day. But yeah, I was completely shocked when I saw that Bungie were acquired. First, Bell's palsy, now dying. Maybe they're both related. Maybe Bell's palsy messes with your breathing. Make sure it's on stream. Channel will take off. Someone take a screenshot of me dying on stream and then sell us as the most expensive NFT ever. And give some of the proceeds to my children and my family, okay? Thanks. People says Epic and Take-Two. Oh, Take-Two. If anyone got Take-Two, that would be massive. Grand Theft Auto as an exclusive would be nuts. Forget Red Dead. Grand Theft Auto is where the money is. Anyway, Epic and Take-Two would probably not be allowed to be exclusive to one console. Based on what, people? You mean the FTC wouldn't allow that? I don't think they'd stop it, Once they okay the purchase of the company, then it's up to the companies to do whatever they want with these IPs, I guess. The reason Destiny is staying multi-platform, I would imagine, is that Bungie insisted, like it was probably a term, we want this multi-platform, we want this everywhere. Or else you can't buy us. If I had to guess. Talking on my ass, of course. Tradition says Microsoft and Activision are the same with their studios. Force them to punch out sequel after sequel. Sony let the first parties try whatever they want. So they've definitely both have a track record of this. However, now that Microsoft have like 30 first party studios, they definitely have more leeway now where they could be like, I don't know, what's like an Activision IP that's been dormant for a while. Think of maybe Guitar Hero or Spyro the Dragon or some shit like that. Just whatever comes to mind. They could give that to one of these other random studios, while they keep Call of Duty pumping out every year. So there's definitely a lot of potential there. But Microsoft have like a really bad track record with just like managing studios, their own ones, when they only had 6. So we'll see how this goes with 30. Trishan says Sony didn't even want Sucker Punch to work on Ghost of Tsushima as they thought it wouldn't work, but it did and they were surprised. No way Activision would let their studios take a risk. You mean Microsoft? Now that they own them? Or do you mean Activision, like you said? But yeah, apparently there was like loads of meddling going on with Activision in terms of Overwatch 2 has been delayed because of Bobby Kotick coming in and sticking his oar in when it wasn't needed and adding months and months of dev time onto them needlessly and all this kind of shit. But yeah, I wonder, did Sony want them to keep working on Infamous? Or something else completely? But then we also have the example of Sony putting their foot down and saying no, Days Gone 2. So they've had their moments as well of being like, no is no. Muzz says if it comes down to a buying war, I'm afraid it's a battle Sony can't win against the bottomless pockets of Microsoft. I think obviously you're correct in that Microsoft have like just are they trillions? I think they may have trillions. I don't know how much they have on hand, but absolutely they have more spending power than Sony. However, Sony dropped $4 billion on one studio, whereas when you think of Microsoft paying $7 for Bethesda, which was like multiple studios, I know Destiny was bringing in a lot of money, so that ups their value. But Sony are still capable of buying a Capcom or a Konami or whatever. Now, if they're both bidding for the same one, and I don't understand how that works, but if they can just like bid like that, then yeah, they're not going to win. But there's been articles popping up recently that, you know, Microsoft wanted to buy Bungie. They were in talks with them last year, but Bungie were too expensive for them. So at the end of the day, you have to keep in mind that, you know, they've already spent what, 77 billion in the last 12 to 13, 14 months or something like that. And their Game Pass still isn't making them a profit. Their consoles are still being outsold by PS5. So maybe someone at Microsoft, the Phil Spencer's boss, I can't remember his name ever, Nadia something. Maybe he's like, okay, you need to cool your jets until, you know, we actually start making some money on these acquisitions. And I can see like so many of these studios getting closed down in the next 10 years or so. Over poor management or, you know, blows and cutting down the size of these studios. Decepticon says, death NFTs will be the new funerals. You can all copy my JPEGs, but only ye. Infinity Lefty says, Retro Studios made the Metroid Prime Trilogy and Donkey Kong Country Returns games and are working on Prime 4. Okay. See, that's like that's an organic acquisition because they've had such a good working relationship with each other that, you know, you wouldn't be surprised if they did. Does Nintendo own Game Freak? Does anyone know? I get the feeling they don't, because a lot of people like to blame Game Freak rather than Nintendo when Pokemon does something bad. Anyway, Tradition says, yeah, Microsoft are better now, but not when Bungie originally left them. Oh yeah, absolutely. Bungie were like really eager to leave Microsoft because it was just, do another Halo. Do another Halo right now. Do it slow. Do it sexy. Nintendo already owns them. I'm a big dumb. Well, listen, Infinity Lefty, your wish came true. You know? So you might think you got some egg on your face, but, you know, you can be happy that they got what you wanted them to have. People says PC side has trillions. I think Xbox side is in the billions. Yeah, but the Xbox side are allowed to access the Bill Gates money, you know? They don't, you know, section it off like that. But you did remind me of a good point, people, is that Sony are almost, I think PlayStation to Sony is like their only, or at least their most profitable wing. Like they do electronics, they do televisions, obviously they got movies and like the music side as well, but like PlayStation is what they're doing really well. That's what's doing very well for the studio. So when they see Microsoft swooping in, buying all these studios, you know, they really have to get their fingers out of their assholes and make some moves like this. And, you know, you can see this behind me. Not just worrying about Microsoft and Nintendo. We also have to worry about Mark Zuckerberg in the VR space. So they should be snapping up these guys and others like them. See, I'm worried they'll get distracted by Microsoft now and they'll forget about Zuckerberg as another enemy. Tradition says Days Gone 2 depended on the success or reception of the first game. The first game was the risk they took. That's true, but excuse me. I feel like, you know, I feel like with Days Gone, the original one, definitely had technical issues, especially at launch. The only time I played it was last year on PS5, so it was running 60 frames per second, so that was like excellent for me. So I enjoyed it. You know, I thought it was a solid 7 or 8 out of 10. And I feel like it reminded me a lot of the first Uncharted game. So I feel like they could have had the Uncharted 2 moment if they were given the chance to work on that, you know. I feel like maybe the PS3 era, Sony might have taken that gamble. but the way they kind of, it wasn't just that they said no Days Gone 2. It was kind of like a little bit of disrespect where they're like, why don't you go ahead and work on the, what was it they wanted them to work on? Like another Uncharted sequel or the remake for The Last of Us or some shit like that, which is kind of like, you know, I think Ben deserved a bit better for that. Because there was a lot of Days Gone that worked well. I know I had issues, but, you know, I feel like it deserved to be treated a little bit better. Or at least the studio. Peepos says, I think Xbox's real plan is to force Sony to let Xbox Game Pass be on PlayStation by stopping exclusives. I don't know if PlayStation would ever allow. If they do, that's like, you know, letting the Trojan horse into your city walls willingly, knowing that there's soldiers hiding inside that thing. So that's like the nightmare scenario for Sony. But maybe Sony are like, okay, this is their plan. Now we have to buy as much as we can to stop them from buying as much as they can, you know. And then could be what we're seeing here, or the beginnings of it, you know. Would Sony have bought Bungie if Microsoft didn't buy Bethesda? It's hard to say. They did desperately need both, you know, a studio that focuses on multiplayer and some kind of first-person shooter studio too. Jimbo, what's up, Jimbo? He says, hey, where's the W coming from, Jimbo? Did you get a new surname? Nice job. He got married. It's Mrs. Jimbo now. Muzz says, I heard Bungie is currently working on some big new IP coming out in 2025. Yes, they are. Maybe Sony knows something about that and is investing on us. Well, absolutely they do. Oh, sorry, Bungie. I was reading that as a bend in my mind. But yes, you were right. It's supposed to be out by 2025, so it could be sooner than that. Or obviously, more likely it'll be delayed. But yeah, they did mention that in their statement when they acquired them. They were like, you know, they've worked on Destiny 2, all these big expansions, and they've got a new IP. Like, they specifically mentioned this new IP. But I don't think that there's any details at all about that. I would imagine it is a first-person shooter, but who knows? People says, I'm still thinking Koch Media. It is Koch Media, isn't it? I think it might be. Maybe on the table they have Vertigo and Deep Silver and a few smaller things. Well, they're in like a phase of expanding themselves, so they're probably less willing to be acquired, you would imagine. But they might not be a bad one to guess. They wouldn't move the needle like a Bethesda or an Activision would, but some nice IPs there. And they've actually teased virtual reality involvement themselves, so that could be nice. Germ is here. How you doing, Germ? He says, who gets Ubi? Ubisoft will be another big one. Not quite as big as Activision, maybe because of Call of Duty alone, but maybe the second biggest? No, EA. EA would have to be the second biggest. Third biggest would be Ubisoft, you'd imagine. Assassin's Creed, you're talking Splinter Cell. And they've got loads of they've got Steep and stuff like that. And what's the new one? Riders Republic, is that Ubisoft too? I'm probably missing. Watch Dogs. They've got a bunch of stuff. Nothing. I don't know. I feel like maybe Ubisoft is maybe the least attractive of the big three that were up for grabs. Well, assuming they're all up for grabs, which they're not, obviously. But you know, I don't know. I don't care about Assassin's Creed anymore. But again, it's not about what I care about. Assassin's Creed, I'm sure, sells big still. I don't know. I'm sure Microsoft would not say no to Ubisoft, especially the way they're able to pump out games, and that would suit them down to the ground in terms of Game Pass. Speaking of Game Pass, Tradition says Games Pass on PlayStation means Sony only getting a small cut of Game Pass revenue and barely making any sales on games anymore. PS5 already sold near cost price, so it can't work unless the Game Pass that they put out in PlayStation is like a special version of Game Pass where it's just the exclusives, maybe. I don't know. Like the Call of Duties and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't see it working. I don't see... Sony would have to be in big trouble for that to happen. The Clancy games, yes. The Division, Rainbow Six games, yeah. Those are big, especially Siege. Ubi will sell pieces of themselves with NFTs to everyone. NFTs are the future. Muzz. You gonna get a pumpkin NFT? Division, Ghost Recon, forgot about that. I don't know if they sell as well. I feel like Division 2 was maybe a disappointment for them. I don't really hear too many people talking about it. Ghost Recon, I think Wildlands was successful, but then Breakpoint was a bit of a flop. Rainbow Six Siege was obviously started off shit, but then it got really good. But now Extraction, this Rainbow Six Extraction like spin-off, is something that nobody's talking about again, and it seems like a bit of a meh, Game Pass filler game. People says, who owns Battlefield? As I'd imagine that would be big. That would be EA. So they own Battlefield. I'm trying to think what EA's biggest franchises are. I think they're the sports one, probably like FIFA, Madden, stuff like that. But you'd imagine if EA were to get acquired, the same thing that would happen with MLB would happen with those sports franchises, where they'd be forced to make them multi-platform. I would imagine. But yeah, EA would still be big. You got Dead Space, which is getting a remake this year anyway, I think. And like a million others I can't think of at the top of my head. Oh, Mass Effect. That's EA, isn't it? BioWare, Dragon Age, all these games. You just feel like all these big publishers have so much potential with these IPs, but they're so bad at managing them, and they make such bad decisions in terms of like, their greed and whatnot, that, they're just wasted with them. So to an extent, even though I am a PlayStation fanboy, oh, my ass hurts. I'm somewhat excited to see what Microsoft can do with some of these IPs they're getting, in terms of like, rejuvenating them, and, they're no longer rotting away somewhere. Germs' Division Heartland being developed by Red Storm, free to play. Okay, Red Storm, didn't they make Werewolves Within? I'm nearly sure they did. I think they were like original Rainbow Six as well, like back in the 90s or whatever. Muzz says EA will be the biggest purchase for sure. Madden and FIFA alone are billion-dollar franchises. FIFA is ridiculous. It's like always in the top. It's like GTA, where it's just always there, except FIFA is like annual. And then it has them like, all the microtransactions are serious. The player packs or whatever. Okay. So I wanted to kind of talk about, seeing as we were talking about acquisitions and stuff, and I've already done videos about this, but, where does this leave Sony in terms of acquiring VR studios, do you think? I mean, not necessarily these acquisitions affecting it, but from what I'm hearing, now is the time to be acquiring studios. Something to do with inflation or whatnot. So this is the ideal time, because it's going to get worse later on if they leave us. So First Contact Entertainment would have to be on the list. Maybe Skydance Interactive. Are they the ones behind Saints and Sinners? I think they are. What are the other big? Zenith, which is something I wanted to talk about as well, because it met the top sellers on Steam. I think it was only for like an hour or two, but still, it's like the first time a Steam VR game made it to the top of that list in, since when? Half-Life Alyx? Maybe even Half-Life Alyx didn't do that. I don't know. I was reading an Upload VR article about that. Maybe I'll pop that up. Yeah. So this is from Upload VR by Jamie Feltham. VR MMO Zenith is currently Steam's top-selling game. US charts, in the US charts. Okay, so maybe it's not global. So Ramen VR, that's the name of the studio. So Zuckerberg, I assume, is looking at these guys. To be clear, this isn't a VR specific category, so it was competing with big games like pre-orders for Dying Light 2, Elden Ring, as well as God of War and Monster Hunter Rise. So it was top of the list with a 10% discount, and obviously it was cheaper than those other games, but still. And of course it's top of the Quest store too, but that's not really much of a surprise. But the fact that it was like top of the Steam top sellers, not viewer specific, maybe is a sign of the times, virtual reality going mainstream. Any of you playing Zenith? Jimbo, I think just about everyone would like to see Konami get acquired. So many great IPs just wasting away. I think so too, but it would still break my heart if it wasn't Sony that acquired them, If Xbox do acquire Konami and they start putting out Silent Hills and Metal Gear Solids, I'm just probably going to have to bite the bullets and get Game Pass on. I hear there's plans for them to get to integrate Game Pass or xCloud on smart TVs and shit like that. So, or even on your laptop, I think you could just stream it that way over the cloud. So that's something I have to consider. It might be a case that you can't ignore, because they've got 30 first-party studios now. So if they actually get their ducks in order, you're talking about the potential for them to release a big game every 3 or 4 months, with that amount of studios, and then just constantly churning that out, and not the same game over and over, like a big variety of games. Will they all be top quality? That's another story, but if they have big IPs like Metal Gear, Silent Hill, on top of all the other shit they already have, it's not going to be easy to ignore. It already isn't easy to ignore, according to many. Ooh, Germ out here with Impulse Gear. Good point. Medfar Point, excellent game. Then they went off on their own for some reason. God knows why. Probably sick of waiting for PSVR2 to come out. And then they did that game, Larcenauts, which I feel like I heard, the last I heard of that game is that it was kind of in trouble in terms of player counts and stuff like that. So maybe they'd be eager to not take a risk like that again. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Larcenauts is doing okay, but I feel like it's probably not. And they might welcome the opportunity, like the safety net of a Sony or a big publisher to cozy up to. Of course, Sony has to want to buy them. Jimbo says I could see Facebook acquiring the Beat Saber studio. They already did, Jimbo. That was like the first thing when the Zuck with his lizard brain started snatched them up. I think the Beat Saber studio was the first to go. Then they got the Onward guys, or was it Pavlov? I think it was the Onward devs. Ready at Dawn, that was a big one, because they actually used to make, AAA flat screen games. So that was a sad day. Jimbo says sailing the high seas on a PC solves many of these issues. It does. If that's the life you want to live, which I will neither condone or condemn. That's up to you. PCs aren't easy to get these days, though. Good ones. Not that the PS5 is either. Most says people that don't see that VR games are the future have their heads up their asses. I hope Sony will go all out on VR and show all the idiots that they're missing out without one. Well, now that Microsoft is becoming more and more of a threat, and they're snatching up more and more IPs and whatnot, virtual reality is one big unique selling point for Sony. So that's like the silver lining for us VR fans, is that they might go really hard in it now. To really emphasize that, you can't get this on Xbox. We can hope. Mr. Chopped is here. Sup, brother. 40,000 leagues under the sea. It's a nice place to bury someone, brother. I can't remember what he says exactly. Something like that. Deposit a body. Anyway, people, the Pumpkin says Skydance would be a good get. That's Saints and Sinners 2 VR exclusive. I think it's too late for that now because it's already confirmed for Quest and whatnot. That's actually another topic I wanted to talk about. We can go into that soon. As well as the Kojima thing, and then I'm out of topics. Hope everyone is well, says Chopped. I hope you're well too, Mr. Chopped. Oh my god. Do I see another 1,000 yens?
Reptilians or reptoids
and it's the Pete
are
Hawkins
said
one.
to be races of
Thank you very much,
intelligent creatures
Mr. Tradition.
which come from extraterrestrial worlds or parallel dimensions.
Tradition has just donated 8.65 through Super Chat.
8.65, baby.
Incredibly moist, just a little something you can put towards buying your own game studio or publisher. Everyone's at it.
I appreciate that very much, Tradition. I need all the seed money I can get before I can start rolling out my own publisher. But for reals, thank you. It is appreciated. Jimbo says PC use in general solves many of these issues. I get, yeah, PC are the big winners here because PlayStation have started going multi-platform in terms of putting their games on PC, which is a big thing for them. You know, they were very only on their consoles. You can get fucked if you want it on PC. And of course, Xbox already started this when they, were kind of desperate and they had no way to make money off their games. They were like, okay, day one, they're on PC as well. So PC gamers are really winning. I was going to say winning out here, but that doesn't make any sense. Why am I going all laggy? What's going on here? Anyway. Important, how you doing? No wonder I'm getting all laggy. Important has arrived. Do Microsoft VR games get released? Or do they hatch? Do Microsoft VR games get released or do they hatch? I feel like this should be a reference to Zuckerberg, but it's not. It's a reference to Microsoft, so I'm confused on this one. Important, you're going to have to explain it to me. Smooth brain, too smooth. Chopped has been cancelled. Uh-oh. It was only a matter of time before you were getting cancelled, along with Alvo and the Quest. Let me just pop that up on the screen there, just so I can show off that shiny 1,000 yens I've got. Whenever I go to Japan, which is probably never, but if I ever do go to Japan, I'm going to have a crisp 2,000 yens now, thanks to Tradition. How is life in Japan, Tradition? I asked you this at the start of the stream, but you never replied. Maybe you didn't see us or hear us. But how are you getting on over there? Germ says, I've got 3 PS5s so far. But kids keep taking them from me. Are you for real? You got 3 PS5s? Do you have like one for yourself even? Or I don't know how many kids you have. Or maybe you just mean kids in general are breaking into your house and stealing your PS5s. I don't know. I suppose that's more of a Facebook joke. Yes, it is. Oh, look, it was you with the smooth brain all along. Get exposed. PC gaming is like having a second job. I remember I got GTA 5 for my laptop that I'm currently using now, just because I wanted to put mods and shit on it, and it was like, they made it sound like it was just going to be straight, so breezy and easy, but I had to go adjust the INI files and all this fucking shit, and I was like, Jesus Christ. It's not worth it. For me. Plus not on this laptop, which is trash. People says, sorry for the, but I'll do it twice. Did you hear PSVR2 devs are maxing out PC settings and still having leftover CPU space? No, I didn't hear that. People, feel free to drop a source on that, even if it's after the stream or whatever. I'll check it out. I'll be interested in seeing that. Tradition says that can be due to Fovea's rendering on whatever they were testing to have that much spare margin. I've heard some people say it's possible that the PSVR2 games are going to look better than PS5 games because of Fovea's rendering plus eye tracking. And I feel like that makes a little bit of sense in my head. I don't know how much sense it makes in reality. Tradition saying life is good in Japan. Looking at renting a bigger place soon to make it easier to flail around in VR. Yeah, I hear they have very small living quarters in Japan, so you'll have to get yourself a little Takeshi's Castle. Germ says, one went to my son and 2 others to nephews. None for myself yet, but I'm in no hurry until VR. Well, if you seem to be capable of acquiring them, so I wouldn't be too worried. For you, anyway. Donnie's having a lot of trouble getting one. Important says, PC gaming is a lot of work that pays no yen. Then what's the point? I ain't working for free. Where's my yens? People says, Brian mentioned it at some point in Monday's Gamecast. Okay. Well, I'll take his word for it. That guy's got the inside information somewhere to know some of these details. Okay, so let me just clear this real quick, and then I'll bring up the next topic, which I wanted to talk about, which I guess we'll talk about Saints and Sinners, Chapter 2. You know, very exciting. This is a bit weird. The more I read this, it's kind of like, I'm not sure what it is exactly. It's not quite a sequel. Apparently, it's more like a standalone follow-up. Which, I mean, a follow-up should be a sequel, but maybe it's not canon. I don't know. But again, this is from Upload Viewer, Jamie Feltham once again. Skydance Interactive has just announced The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners Chapter 2, Retribution is what it's called. So I say just announced, but this was what? What is this? January 24th, so I'm way behind on this. So it's a standalone follow-up to the original game that continues its story and follows the same protagonist, the tourist. So the events of this take place after the Aftershock updates, which came out. But okay, I'll just keep reading because he makes better sense of it. And that's about all the developer has officially confirmed so far. There's no definitive release dates or platforms, but from the sounds of it, this could be more of a standalone expansion than it is a full-blown sequel. Which kind of makes me think it's something like Infamous Festival of Blood, or maybe like Red Dead Undead Nightmare or something like that. Needless to say, we're very excited to see one of our favorite viewer games return, but we can also pick apart possible details for Retribution based on the ending to last year's Aftershocks updates. So I don't want to read out any spoilers for the ending of Aftershocks, but I'll read what isn't spoilery. So is Chapter 2 a sequel? And the answer is, from the looks of it, this might not be a full-blown sequel to the original game. It is definitely a standalone title, and you won't need to have played the first game to experience this one, which is strange. You know, you think if it's following the same guy and it takes place after Aftershocks, you should probably play the first one to be up to date on what's going on in this, especially when it's called Chapter 2, you know. But the game's press release avoids using the term sequel, and when we asked if the game could be considered a true Saints and Sinners 2, a spokesperson reiterated that it's a standalone game, but didn't use the word sequel themselves. So this might be more of an expansion than a full follow-up. I don't know if it's semantics to argue that or not. Then they kind of go into some spoilery stuff that I don't want to talk about in terms of like a new enemy or something. And apparently, even though they themselves, Skydance, didn't confirm it, but Mesa, their social accounts, have confirmed that it's coming 2022, and that Quest will be one of the platforms it comes to. So there you go. I don't want to read too much more about that in case I spoil stuff. But yeah, Saints and Sinners Chapter 2. I still haven't done Aftershocks. I haven't touched it since I've beaten it. Just because I just don't have the time. But it is one of my favorite games on PSVR. And it is one of the best realized games in terms of what you can do with the physics in virtual reality with the motion controllers and all this. It was really impressive, that game. Tradition says Germ likely has a stash of them in his basement, slowly trickling out over eBay. Yeah, you know, it all makes sense because Germ's he's an Xbox guy these days, I think. So he's hurting them Sony ponies. Am I right, Germ? Killer Sam, how you doing? Are we going to hear anything new about PSVR2 at the next State of Play today? Technically, it is today. You're right, because it's gone past midnight. That's what I'm hoping will happen. That we'll see PS or VR support mentioned for Gran Turismo 7. But keep in mind, this next State of Play is all about Gran Turismo 7. So the only way we'd hear about PSVR 2 is if it confirms support for Gran Turismo 7, but don't expect to see like the headset or anything like that. And don't even expect to see them confirm VR2. Maybe they'll just save that for its own special event. But it's just that there is a small chance, I would say, that they will. Important says, I'm waiting for the Saints and Sinners and Saints Row crossover. Important with the bad jokes today. I'm not going to lie, Important. You're disappointing me. What's going on? You're usually... maybe you're not important. Who are you? Tradition, I'd be lying if I said... well, this is Jerem saying this to Tradition. I'd be lying if I said I haven't been tempted, but there's always someone giving me puppy's eyes when I get my hands on one. Are you just giving them away? Or are you like charging them, you know, at least cost price? Don't tell me you're just giving away 3 PS5s to a bunch of goddamn kids. Viewer Demon says, just Star Wars this. Start with Chapter 2 first. Lol. Star Wars is confusing. Killer Sam says, Aftershocks is amazing. I have no doubt that it is. Saints and Sinners itself was amazing. And it is a free update as well, so it's waiting for me to play. So I just... you know how it is with the kids. Paying for my Game Pass. Is it true that you can just make a new account on Xbox, get the free month or free whatever it is period of time, then make that account your primary and then switch back to your normal account, and then you can just kind of get infinite Game Pass through that loophole, as long as you just keep making accounts? Chopped. Zenith is effing G-balls. I refuse to read that was gay in that negative connotation, Chopped. And I suggest you stop being a bigot. I wasted free credits on that BS quest. Cancel. You don't like Zenith? I'm hearing like a lot of people who weren't expecting to like Zenith, who are enjoying Zenith, you know. I think you might like it if you play it with friends, Chopped, you know. I'm going to try and get it. And get like a pumpkin patch nice or something, but you know, God knows when that's going to happen. And if you were Demon as well, I just refunded Zenith. Was good at first, but just not an MMO guy. Okay, that's fair enough. If you're not into MMOs, you're not going to be... I'm not into MMOs, so maybe I'll hate it too. But just the idea of meeting up with like 20, 30 people and then doing like a quest together, that sounds interesting to me. Moisty moistness is people. Gave the one to my son. Nephew's paid retail. Okay. That's fair enough. People says, I saw a man in a white van saying, come in my van for a free PS5. And now I need to know, do you have a PS5, people? What happened? Okay, let me get to my last topic while we're talking. Before we run out of time, before one of my babies wakes up and starts screaming at me. Rumours. Okay, I'll say again. This is also from Upload Viewer. This time it's from Harry Baker. But this is a follow-up to other videos I've done in the past where there's been rumors of Hideo Kojima working on a PSVR game, or PSVR2 game, I should say. And those earlier rumors tied it to Silent Hill. So apparently there was going to be 2 Silent Hills in development. Could all be scrapped now and cancelled. I have no idea. But that one of them was going to be with Kojima. It was going to be along the lines of an Until Dawn style game, where it was like that kind of a narrative game. But it was also going to be virtual reality. So maybe this is it. But anyway, let's read this article. Rumors suggest Hideo Kojima could be working on a PSVR 2 game. This came from a Twitter account called Oops Leaks, so I'm going to read the tweet from them. I don't know why maybe they have a history of, you know, leaking things correctly, but this article doesn't really give a reason as to why this Twitter account should be trusted. So take this all with loads of salt, basically. So Kojima Productions got PSVR 2 prototypes back in November 2021, according to this Twitter account, according to unconfirmed information that I've got. So, God knows about that, you know. Studio's upcoming smaller project could be a VR game / experience in collaboration with award-winning virtual reality expert and storyteller, Celine Tricart. So I guess that little bit of extra detail, like if it was a made-up rumor, that would be a bit like a very random thing to add to it. You know, Celine Tricart is working on it. It would be like a Kojima thing to do, to work with like an award-winning filmmaker, you know, storyteller, whatever she is. But this all adds up as well with Kojima recently tweeting that he's doing a lot of experimenting lately. He's taken some interesting pictures, and there's one with a box in the background, and the part of the box has been blacked out, so censored, so you can't see. So that could be the box that the PSVR2 came in or something. I don't know. The source of the rumor is the Twitter user blah blah blah. Let me go down to something that's more interesting that I haven't already focused on. So this Celine Tricard has made move for film projects that are in virtual reality or 360 type. You know how it is. Could there be any stock to this? Well, we do know that Kojima is fond of virtual reality and said in September 2020 that he thought the next 2 to 3 years would be major for the technology and people working on it. He was also really interested in VR back in 2019, but at the time he wasn't free enough to work on a game for it. Kojima also spoke to Famitsu at the end of last year, which was originally published in Japanese. However, Silicon Air's Andrew Kaya gave a translated report on what he said, suggesting Kojima confirmed that his studio was working on 2 games, one of them a big title, and the second one a new challenging title. The description of the second one could be referring to a new IP, but it's also possible that the challenge he describes related to working with a new medium, perhaps virtual reality. A tweet from Kojima on January 12th showed a new folder on a computer, which, when translated using Google Translate, is called something to the effect of new project. Again, very vague, but we live in hope. So that's basically it in terms of the rumor. What do you think of that? I mean, Kojima, that's my dream, basically. A Kojima-made PSVR2 exclusive. Because that fella knows how to take advantage of hardware. Let me get back to the comments. Chop says, let me back in. I got the vid. So if I ain't around in the future, I was glad to hang with you all. And if I am around, forget I said anything. Chopped. Oh, you got the COVID. Jesus, I was like, what video is he talking about? The Ring? Is he getting the video from The Ring? Chopped. I'm very sorry to hear that you got the COVID. And, you know, all my good wishes towards you recovering from it. I hope you will, and I think you probably will. You know, tough man is Chopped. The COVID is no match for him. Nice all GG. Chopped, take care. Sweet dreams, get all the rest. Drink lots of fluids. Laser Chopped. Killer Sam says, have you played The Wanderer, which is apparently great too? Do you think they might provide a patch for PSVR2? I have not played it. It's on my list, or at least I'll try and reach out to the developer and get a code or something like that. I want to play Zenith first. As far as a patch for PSVR2, I don't know. It's really hard to say. I mean, it's going to depend on how backwards compatibility is going to work, or if it will at all. They might just have to release a new version of Wanderer for PSVR2, and then if you already own it, maybe they give you the free upgrade or something. We'll have to wait and see. But I'm guessing they're a small studio, so it could be a while. VR Demon says, I kept Wanderer. It's good. I hear it's about like 8 to 10 hours or something. I'm not sure it's the type of game you'd replay though. I'm not sure what the replayability is in that. The Pumpkin says, my other username is PPO Kojima. He stole my idea. Now if it's Silent Hill, I'm saying he stole my name as his idea. PPO Kojima. It's a good name though, isn't it? Hideo. I used to call him Hideo when I was young, because that's what it looked like to me. Important says, and I've got unconfirmed information that Firewall 002 has permanent dedicated servers. You never know. Maybe you do. Maybe you do have unconfirmed information. People says Wanderer is amazing. It looks good. I haven't looked at it too much because I don't want to spoil anything. Sean Smith, how you doing? Yo, 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 what's up, dude? Welcome back, Sean Smith. I hope you're well. Tradition says those healthy weed fortified lungs will dust COVID off like it's nothing. I mean, you raise a good point. I mean, Should weed, if he's got so much weed in his lungs, should he have even gotten it in the first place? Notice how Jackpot isn't here to answer these difficult questions. And that's a nice long emoji there from not Decepticon, Tradition. I do enjoy a good emoji that you don't see too often, but is used correctly in context. Anyway, Kojima making a PSVR2 game excites me in ways, that any other developer probably wouldn't, because he does make use of hardware. Think of the PS1, how he used the vibrating controller to move it across Psycho Mantis, magically moving it with his mind. He used the memory card ports. You swap the fucking memory cards around to beat Psycho Mantis. What did he do with PS2? He did, I suppose you could say he used the pressure sensitive buttons on the PS2. Took advantage of that shit. In PS3, he used what? What did he do with PS3? Did you have to do some shit with the 6-axis? Like switch the ports around again or something? I can't remember. He did lots of like the 6-axis motion control shit. So he's always taking advantage of the hardware. And then in virtual reality, of course, there's like, with motion controllers, there's way more he could do. And eye tracking. Tradition brought up a good point in the Discord where he could have it so that he knows where you're looking, so he puts a shadowy figure maybe on the peripheral and then it goes when you look, that kind of shit, if it's a horror game. Anyway. People said 6-axis, exactly. Thank you. So yeah, incredibly exciting. I do hope it's a horror, whatever he's working on, and I hope, I'm kind of glad to hear it's a smaller project as well. Not only because that would mean it would come quicker, but because I think I prefer Kojima when he's making linear titles. I like Death Stranding and I like Metal Gear Solid 5, even though the story for that one was not great. But they don't hold a candle to the first 4 Metal Gear Solid games, I think, in my opinion. So yeah, I think. Oh, you know what? I keep forgetting I can do this. Now that I'm able to do it, I can't think of a question to ask. But basically, I can just make a poll. So anytime we have a disagreement, we can take it to a poll and see, okay, like, will Kojima make a PSVR2 exclusive? And then the answers are already yes or no. Ask your community. So you'll see a poll pop up in the comments and you'll be able to, vote in it or whatever. Probably not any good now, but, if there is a big talking point in a future stream, we can get some numbers that way. People, the Pumpkin says, I want to see a big vampire lady on PSVR 2. And as long as Capcom don't get purchased by anyone other than Sony, there's a good chance we will see the big vampire lady on PSVR 2. Keep them hopes alive. I can't believe that fella, that modder, Prey Dog, got Resident Evil 2 and 3. I think he's even done 7 and 8, or he's working on 7 and 8 on PC. All of them running in VR in like a comprehensive way. I mean, there's some jank to us, I suppose, but he's added motion control even, which is more than they did even in Resident Evil 7 officially. They didn't add the motion controls. So, it just kind of turns my stomach to know that maybe they could have put virtual reality in Resident Evil 2 if they really wanted to. But they didn't. Or maybe Sony could have paid for it, but they didn't. I don't know. Anyway, lads and ladies, let's see. How do I access this poll? 7 votes. All of you say yes, 100%. I wonder if I can tap on that and see if it'll pop up. No, it doesn't pop up on the screen, does it? Only the comments do. Okay, that's fair enough. Be cool if it did pop on the screen though. Anyway, I think I will end the stream there, unless there's anything else to be said. Thank you everyone for joining. Thank you, Mr. Tradition, for once again the generous 1,000 yens to add to my yen pile. I'm becoming quite a fan of the currency. And I'll see you in the next one. Alright? Take it sleazy and stay moist. Okay?